So we have another incredible show. We call it show yet? Maybe I should start calling it a show. I don't know what we call it, but we're just going to go with it and have a little bit of fun. I remember back in the day, I used to be so worried about fumbling over my words and what to say. What if I make a mistake? And now I just know it's just going to happen. And who cares? We roll with it. So this has been an individual that I've looked up to for a while, been following his success. He's like one of those people from a distance that's just a total legend, total superstar. It's like you've seen it. If you see the description of what he's done and what he's accomplished is amazing. But even more amazing is his humility. He's just one of those incredible human beings that's extremely humble, easy to work with, easy to get along with. And him and I have been collaborating now for how long? How long would you say, Darin?
Oh, I don't know, man. It's been a while, right?
Yeah, and then even recently, it's been a lot more of just back and forth conversations and calls, and I don't know, maybe it's 5 months, maybe it's 6 months. Time flies by with chaos that goes on in the world, and so we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Before we start, I always like to ask really just relevant, important conversations, and I know we got people tuning in from all over the world. Podcast now has been listened to by over 101 countries. Wow. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, listening to this podcast, or you're watching this in general, this is an important question that I asked a couple interviews ago. Twizzlers or Red Vines?
I don't know, man. I mean, either one. I'm good. I'm easy. Let's say Twizzlers. How about that?
All right. That's the right answer. So we're good so far. This is a tougher one, I think. Mountains or beach?
Mountains or beach? Beach.
All right.
Even though I love both of them, that's tough.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one, right? It's like going up the mountains, and sometimes you got the lake and you got the views, and then sometimes going to the beach. And I think it also depends on which one, right? Like,
yeah, that's right. If you're in the right place in Hawaii, you can see the mountains and the beach.
Okay, so I want to make a huge announcement for some of you that don't know this before we get into the meat of this. And Darin doesn't even know any of the questions I'm going to ask. I don't even know half the questions I'm going to ask because I like to just roll with it. So he's like, hey, what are we talking about today? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, cool. Ask me whatever you want. Is welcome to the coaches circle, club, industry, profession. So I just want to make that announcement that Darin has committed to being a generic coach. And some people are like, well, are these people the real deal? He's one of the few people that, yeah, he's crushed it as much as anyone that's coaching, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And the second part is, yes, he's 100% generic. He's not part of any company. And the third part is when people are like, do we need more coaches? Are you kidding me? It's a $200 profession. And everyone's like, there's so many coaches. How many can you name? 50?
That's $200, 200 million, right?
200 billion.
you said $200.
Oh,
you make sure you're my game here.
Yeah, and it's probably more than 200 billion, right? Because there's so many Asian companies that aren't reporting to the DSA, and so I look at it and I'm like, yeah, of course we do. Now, at the same time, I always say figure out who you drive with the most and make that your main person, just like an upline. You can't listen to 7 uplines and then everything else validates that for new ideas and insights. So it doesn't change your direction, it validates it. And then the last thing is people always ask me, why would you promote people that they consider competition? I think that's a bunch of bull crap. I really do believe that collaboration is the new competition. So for me, I'm going to provide as much value as I possibly can. I'm going to get anyone and everyone. I've had Fraser Brooks on here so many different times. I've been at his event. He's been at my event. Brian Fryer, same thing, and many more that we could go on and name of individuals. Bob Heilig, we're always collaborating. Todd Falcone, every time I text him, he calls me and we talk for an hour. Simon Chan, right? And I don't want to start because then I'll miss some, but all in all. And then the other day I did an interview, Mr. Eric Warre texted me, he's like, dude, that interview was so good. I loved it. So I'm just telling you, there's enough to go around. So Darin, let me start out with the first question here, and then we can get in a little bit of your background and maybe why coaching. What do you think are some of the top reasons why network marketers fail? Like if you're to sum it up, because I think it's important, good leaders have vision, great leaders give vision, and they want to hear from you, not me. So I know that was like long, roundabout intro, blah, blah, blah. So you can give us this 1 reason, 2 reasons, 5 reasons, 3 reasons, whatever you want. What are some of the top reasons that come to mind why network marketers fail based on, I mean, you got a ton of experience, success, background. Tell us.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, and I said 200 million. You're right. Network marketing is a 200 billion, over 100 million people, and, in my opinion right now, and not just my opinion, but we're seeing it, right? It's like the floodgates have opened. Before, you had to really sell people on, hey, listen, you may want to think about having a plan B. You may want to think about finding a way to work from home. What if you got laid off? What if you got downsized, right-sized, capsized? And we no longer have to do that. Like, people are looking for a home, not only in network marketing, but, I had franchises and really don't want to do that again. And right now, when people are going, look, what are my options? They don't want to go start a traditional business. And so you really have the best business model, in my opinion, on the planet, because you can get started for less than the price of a smartphone. And, hey, John Melton. And so less than the price of a smartphone, and, go out there and achieve whatever you want to achieve. So that I wanted to say that real quick, because I know I said by accident 200 million.
$200. So
you say, yeah, it's going up. It's going up. See what happens, man? The industry's already exploding just since this interview, from $200 to 200 million. Now we're at 200 billion. And let me say this before I go into your question, if you don't mind, because I want to make sure I get this out. For all of you that are following Rob, there's a saying that I heard a while back, never meet your heroes because you're going to be disappointed. And I've had that happen many times, people that I looked up to and respected. And when I really got to know them behind the scenes, I was so disappointed, going, man, they're really not authentic and they're not real. No matter how many great things you think you know about Rob Sperry, it's a lot more than that. Because when I came in after 28 years of being a distributor and making the decision to go into the training world, which I've wanted to do for years, just because, and I'll share my story with you. It's interesting that, not everyone in your circle is necessarily in your corner. And when I came into the industry, there were people that just went out of their way, like Rob, and put me on his platform. Like, Rob, are you sure? Like, these are these are people that are following you. And he's like, Darin, I have an abundance mentality. So not only is he an awesome guy, an awesome trainer, I've looked up to him and respected him for a long time, even before we started collaborating a lot in the last several months. But it's even better than you think. And so you've got a great leader. And so we just really I appreciate you and everything that you've done. So why do people fail in network marketing? Well, I'll tell you why I failed. And I think that a lot of people can relate to it. For 7 years, I got started in network marketing at 18. And I was the only year and a half I went to college. I'm a college dropout. I made it about a year and a half, which was not good. I don't know how I made it that long. I had a strength coach. I only weighed 142 pounds. And there's this big old strength coach. And I'm like, man, how can I put on weight? How can I get stronger? And he's like, man, I'm glad you asked. And he took and showed me a product that was in network marketing. And so from that point, I failed for 7 years, like over and over and over again. And to the point I said, I'm done. I was a part of the NFL, the No Friends Left Club, and I remember telling my wife, I had someone approach us in Toys R Us. And I told my wife when they walked away, because they go, hey, don't I know you? And I'm like, no, you don't know me. That's a pickup line. That's a prospecting line from a certain company. And anyway, when he walked away, I told my wife, I'm like, even if it's a church on Sunday, right, I'm going to lay hands on someone if they ever approach me about network marketing, any type of home-based business again. But when I finally had the right mentors that came into my life, everything changed, and people hear the success that I've had. And I always like to get past that point, through the introduction and when they see those things, because I'm like, no, you have to hear the good part. The good part is I failed for 7 years. And the good part is that you can do everything that I did. I recruited over 1,000 people, but if you can recruit one, you can recruit 1,000, because the same thing that I did to recruit number 2 and number 3, all the way up to over 1,000, it was the same thing, right? It's just learning the simple basics and making sure it's duplicatable and, changing with the times with technology and things like that. But first of all, you have to be coachable. I wasn't that coachable for 7 years. I wanted to bring my background into network marketing. And Rob, you and I've seen that, right? I mean, we've got people that come in with, let's say it's a doctor. And, I've had some doctors that go, you know what? I am a doctor and I'm not going to do those cheesy little simple things that you're teaching me. I'm going to do it my way. And they fail. And they fail fast and hard. Then I've had doctors that come on board and they're like, you know what? I'm smart enough to know that I went to school to be a doctor, but this is completely different. Tell me what to do. I will follow your lead. And they've had massive success. So it's about being coachable, leaving your background at the door, even because what we do in this business is extremely simple, right? It's easy to do, but it's easy not to do. It is work. You know, anyone that tells you can get in and get rich by doing nothing, they're lying to you, or it's illegal. It's one of those things, right? If it sounds easy, a lot of times it's sleazy. So you have to be coachable, leave your background at the door, which sounds extremely simple, but Rob, you and I both know people, that's code for, as long as you tell me what I'm comfortable with, I'm coachable. But if it rubs me the wrong way, you know, and it makes me uncomfortable, I'm not that coachable. Even if they're not saying that, they're actually saying that. And so, and I think Eric Worre is the one that I heard say this a long time ago, is that, you know, if it rubs you the wrong way and emotions, you know, get all of a sudden your emotions take over, it's probably meant for you. Number two, you got to be willing to work. You know, people come into this profession and they go, you know what, I want to get rich quick. And they have that lottery mentality. And if we tell the people when you bring them into the business, if we have that as the way we recruited them and we attracted them, that's not the type of people you really want to attract. It is work. It's hard work. But the great thing is it's something you can do with your busy schedule. It's something you can do with your family. My wife and I, when we had a massive team of hundreds of thousands around the world, we have 5 kids, we had 2 franchises. I mean, life was crazy busy, but you can do it. So you have to be willing to put in the work. And then the last thing is that if you're not clear on why you're doing the business. I think as network marketers, a lot of times we tell people, what's your why? And we forget that if they hadn't been in network marketing, they hadn't been around personal development, they don't know what that means. So what's most important to you in your life right now? You know, clarity gives you focus, focus gives you energy. So if you're burned out, you're not motivated, it's not burnout, you know, it's lack of clarity. So those are 3 things that if you really hone in, if you're coachable, if you're willing to put in the work, and at first work harder than you get paid, to eventually have the ability to get paid more than you do. And then the 3, crystal clear clarity on what you want. And it has to be crystal clear. So hopefully I know it's a long answer, but.
No, I think it's one of those things, like each time there's, depending on what you just read or you're thinking about, it's summing up the same things in different ways. And I'm thinking about that. So a couple questions that I want to go even deeper on some of the answers on the second answer, which I think is part of the first, but you're talking about how setting the expectation of the amount of work it is and what it really takes. So 90% of disappointment comes from unrealistic expectations. At the same time, most people haven't ever accomplished anything great without having these huge dreams, right? Les Brown, shoot for the stars, land on the moon. And so my question would be to you is this. I always say that good leaders have vision, great leaders give vision. And you can't give the vision unless you have it. That's why I just say give that vision, because, you know, Stephen Covey, his definition of leadership is communicating to one their worth and potential so well they see it in themselves. So with all that said, how do you balance that out? Because I know for me, I've done both extremes when I was building, where I was too hypey, right? And I didn't mean to be. I had big dreams. And then I made it too boring of like, hey, 15 years later, you know, you could have this full time. So how would you cast that vision or help people and, you know, give them some vision so they can help cast that vision?
Well, I mean, a couple things there. So I believe what you're asking, one part is like, how do we set the right expectations when they start? And I think that's extremely important because you can inoculate them from what's getting ready to happen. If you go, hey, Rob, you know, I want you to join my business. Who do we have on here? Julie. Okay. So we go, hey, Julie, you know, you can get in, you can do nothing. And guess what? And that was me. When I first got started, I would chase you from state to state, country to country, and beg you to get in my business. Later, I decided if I wanted to let you in my business because I wanted to work with people that I liked and I had fun with and that, you know, saw the same thing that I did. But if you're promising, Julie, you can get in, do nothing, don't worry, we're going to build it for you. People are going to fall underneath of you. You're getting in a power spot. And man, it's going to be so easy. Then she's going to start working and building the business, find out it's not like that. And she's going to quit extremely quick. But if we inoculate them and we go, hey, listen, do you have these 3 things, for example, we just talked about? You know, tell me, Julie, what's most important to you in your life right now? And we dig deep. You know, Rob, I've been studying over the last 2 years, I've been studying a lot about the mind and how it works and next level achievement. And it's fascinating that our brain doesn't know the difference of reality and what we tell it. So when you visualize an experience, your body and your brain produce the same chemicals and endorphins as if the experience actually happened. So you can experience an experience before you ever experience it. So when you think about what you want and you visualize your goals and your dreams, and then we move in the direction of our expectations. You know, the late billionaire Paul Meyer said that you magnetize the condition that you seek. What you think about, you truly do bring about, right? And I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's the reticular activating system. It's a filter because our brain is designed to block most of the things out. It allows in what serves our goals, what you tell it, and it blocks things out that you don't need at that time. So it's like never noticing how many cars on the road like the one you're driving till you bought it. They were there before, but now the awareness. So when you help them turn that dream machine back on, right? Because a lot of them have dust on them, right? Because we're not taught how to dream. And then we're conditioned. We're in a box. You know, we become the people that we hang around the most. Our associations are like an elevator. You know, they take us up or they bring us down. So we have to ask ourselves, what are our associations doing to us or what are they doing for us? Because that affects our dreams, that affects what we think is possible. So when you help them really dig deep and start getting clarity on why they're doing the business, that helps them stay strong enough, long enough. And then if we inoculate them and go, hey, listen, who else do we have on here? D. And we go, hey, D, let me just be honest with you, right? I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. If you hadn't felt like quitting, you just hadn't been in the business long enough, right? Give it a little bit of time. You'll get there. And I would joke with them, go, look, I used to want to quit 100 times a day. Now I'm down to about 2. So it will get better. But you're going to be in the no sleep zone. You're jacked out of your mind. You're like a chihuahua on Red Bull. And because your dream machine's turned back on and it's been turned off for a long time. And then you go out and talk to some people that you know will see it, right? You're hitting them up on the DM, the messenger. You're doing these posts on social media. You knew they would see what you see. And not only do they not see it, they say some crazy stuff. Like, I can't believe you're doing that. And so you went from I'm in the no sleep zone to the self-doubt zone, right? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should just work until I die, you know? And what helps you stay strong enough, long enough to get through that process is remembering why you're doing it. And then something good happens, you're back up. And then that person that you thought would be with you forever that told you they were going to make you rich, they disappear into the witness protection program in lightning speed. You know, 2 weeks later, they don't answer your calls. They blocked you on social media. It is an emotional roller coaster, but eventually your down will be higher than your previous, or your down will be higher than your previous highs. So it will go just like this. So don't get mad at the process because we get paid based on the size of the problems we can solve. Don't just go through those challenges. Set a goal to grow through them, right? Jim Rohn said, don't wish it was easier, wish we were better. He said, look, set a goal to make $1 million, not because of the $1 million, because of who we become in the process. So if I'm sharing that with, you know, for example, with D, and I go, let me share something else with you, D, you know, and not only is it going to be an emotional roller coaster, but it's going to be worth it. You know, there's sacrifice no matter what we do. There's sacrifice whether you work a job, there's sacrifice if you're an athlete. But if the promise is clear, I'm sure you don't mind paying the price. And the longest distance to success in building a business is a shortcut, right? We all have to go through that. Then when you share with them, look, you're going to work hard and you're going to look at your paycheck. You're going to look at your deposit and go, are you for real? Like, I cannot believe how hard I worked to get this little bit of money. But then we explain to them how it works. When Robert Kiyosaki talks about developing assets that throw off cash, at least here you have the potential for your income to grow by multiplication, not by addition. You're not just exchanging time for money. So I think, Rob, when we set them up for success by being real with them, letting them know that, look, this is normal. You know, wanting to quit every day is normal. Being so jacked out of my mind I can't sleep one night and the next day feeling like I want to go put my head under the pillow, you know, that's normal. And so anyway, I hope that answers your question about, you know, helping people get clarity, knowing why they're doing the business, setting them up for success by inoculating them versus you're going to get in, it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows and, you know, nothing bad's ever going to happen. It's just not true, right? It's not true. This is reality. And you're helping them when you share that with them from the very beginning, in my opinion.
Yeah. And your whole goal, right, is to to sponsor individuals that end up being committed. Now, no matter what you do, no matter how good you are at casting a vision, there's always going to be a level of attrition. And that's in all aspects of life. All aspects of life. That's everything. That's human nature. But the better you get at casting that vision, setting those expectations, the easier it is going to be, or the more people you're going to have that are going to stick. And look, at the beginning, in the back of their minds, they're kind of listening to you, but they're kind of like thinking in their minds, oh, if I could just find one Darin, right? If I could just find one Darin, then I'm going to crush this business. And so their minds are thinking that. And many times we know that. And we sacrifice long-term gains for short-term quick fixes. I know I did, because you're about the now and the recruit. And like just Darin just talked about developing assets. I mean, it's just crazy the perspective that so many of us have, because I think a lot of times those huge, fast stories can do more damage than help. I think they're important because it's good to have hope in what's possible and dream big. I'm a huge dreamer. But at the same time, so many people end up comparing, and they end up thinking, well, they end up thinking about the shortcut. And I used to say this, you're one good person away. And the problem is, if you don't clarify that comment of you're one good person away from everything changing, then people are focusing more on luck than skill. Like you just quoted the great Jim Rohn, right? Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So I love the way that you conveyed that and communicated that, because I think so many people are just so scared. Well, what if they say no? Look, you're going to be drama kings and queens at the beginning, right? I know I was. I'm sure Darin was. Somebody good joins your business. I'm going to Bora Bora. This is great. I'm quitting my job. And someone good quits your business. It's just not that good. I don't know anyone. I don't know who to talk to. I just don't have the personality, Darin. I don't have any time. Someone good joins again. This is just great, right? So it really is such a fun challenge that we go through. Mine was more internal, because I prided myself on being very emotionally stable. So even though I was emotionally unstable in the process, my wife would be like, hey, are we going to be okay with this small check? I'm like, in my mind, I was like, I have no freaking clue, right? I don't know if this thing that we got ourselves into is going to work. So let's talk about creating momentum. If someone is going to create, and I'm going to open this, don't worry, this isn't an ad, people. Spindrift. I don't like the LaCroix, but my wife's got me on these Spindrifts, the sparkling water.
Yeah, that's what happens when you make a lot of money. You're drinking stuff like that. I'm drinking like water out of the faucet. You know, I'm a new trainer. I'm drinking water out of the faucet.
Do you drink sparkling water, yes or no? And do you prefer Spindrift or LaCroix? I'm always curious.
Every now and then I get some Pellegrino when I go to a restaurant with a little bit of lime. You know
just add it in there. So someone right now, whether they're starting brand new or they've been in for a while, and they're like, you know what? That's it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It is time. It is time to go create some massive freaking momentum. If you were starting over right now, you were back in the trenches, and you were, and maybe not just you, because maybe it's a little different for you because you have so much credibility. If you were teaching someone and you were coaching someone right now, whether they're brand new or they've been in for a year or two, and let's say it's someone who hasn't had massive success yet, but they want to, they really want to. And now they're not just talking about it, right? It's not just talk. They're like, okay, and now I'm going to stick to the income producing activities. Darin, I am super coachable. I'm so teachable. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Darin, coach me. Tell me what I need to do to create that wave of momentum.
You know, Rob, that's great. And even you saying that, I mean, I didn't get that in my first 7 years. I was like, I don't need to have a coach. I don't need to really go have a bunch of mentors, because I can figure this thing out myself, which now, you know, I know you and I, we both spent a massive amount of money in coaches and mentors and courses. Because why would we spend, for example, why would I spend, how many years were you in the industry, Rob?
Since 2008.
Since 2008. Okay. So why would I spend all those years trying to figure out what to do right when I can pay you, hire you to coach me and shave years off my learning curve, right? When I can buy a course. And I remember I've spent multiple six figures over the last several years, whether it's learning digital media, social media marketing, network marketing coaches when I was in the field, 28 years as a distributor. And I would have people that didn't know any better going, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you do that? If you want to go slow, don't do that. Go figure it out. Take the years and invest all that money. But if you're coming to me and knowing what I know now, what I would do, because it takes about 90 days to figure out what the heck you got into anyway. It takes about a year to learn the basics, takes another year to get really good at the basics. And that's just reality. Now, can you compress time frames? Success compression. Yeah, you could do that. And that was my mindset. If I was starting over right now, or you came to me and you've never been in network marketing or direct sales, and I would say, well, if you're going to be bad before you're good, my thing was I want to hurry up and get it out of the way. Every great network marketer was a lousy network marketer in the beginning. And so when people get started, their knowledge is high, but their excitement is high, but their knowledge is low. I would go out and just do AOMA, AOMA, all out massive activity. Anytime that I've gone to a different level in my life and in my business, it's because I finally believe that I could, first of all, right? That's really important. A lot of times the enemy is the inner me. It's that law of the lid. It's you never get past your self-imposed limitations. It's not so much what's going on around you, is what's going on inside of you. If everything you've ever wanted is this far away. So if you take your fingers and you do this, it's right here. So first thing I would do is work on your mindset. Going, listen, you've got to block the negative. You've got to fuel the positive. You got to think about what you're thinking about. And I would really take you through a process, because the philosophy, your filters between your ears, if we don't change that, then you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. Anything and everything you ever achieve, you will achieve in your head first. You have to see it here before you ever see it in reality. And your attitude and your mindset is going to determine your behaviors. And your behaviors are going to determine your results. So we work on that, give you a plan and a strategy. Then what we would do is I would share with you, listen, if you're not having the success that you want or you feel like you deserve, I used to say either you're not doing something enough or you're not doing something right. But it actually could be both. So that's why it's important to have the right mentors in your life, because if you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're not doing it right, it's you could make a couple little tweaks, and a lot of times you will find just like a 10% increase in those skills or 20% increase in that skill set can have multiple rewards over a period of time. So I would help you with a game plan. I would say, hey, Rob, listen, let's set up a 90-day just all-out run. And we have to remember too, 80% of the production comes from brand new people. And the longer we're in the business, the more we tend to forget that, because we become personal development gurus. We become coaches, even though we're still building in the field. We become compensation plan experts. We know all the ingredients and all the science. And as soon as someone asks us something, we verbally vomit all over that person. That's not duplicatable. So remember, when people look at us, when they look at you and you're bringing them into the business, if you're sharing your products or your services or your business, they're asking themselves, can I do what you do? Do I want to do what you do? Do I have time to do what you do? And do I want to do to my friends, family, and neighbors what you just did to me? So make sure it's extremely simple. Basics create a big business in network marketing. Fancy destroys your business. So we would talk about how much time do you have to work your business? And Rob, I'm sure you've seen this just like I have. There's people, when I say go all out for 90 days, go all out, go full time with the time that you have to build your business. Yeah. 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. I don't mean you quit your job and do all these crazy things, because that's one of the worst things you could do is quit your job too soon. But you and I have seen people that have 10 hours a week that outperform people that say they're full-time, because they're really not full-time. They may be full-time because they quit their job too soon or they can't find a job, but it doesn't mean they do full-time activity. But then I've had people that go, look, I only have 10 hours a week, and I'm a single mom and I've got several children, and I run, this is a perfect example. Single mom, 3 kids, all in cheer, came onto the team back when I was building in the field, never done this before. And she was coachable. She was willing to work whatever it took. She's like, those are my girls. Mom, you don't mess with a Bears Cubs, right? She's like, I will do whatever it takes to make sure they have the best life that they possibly can. And so she was coachable. She was willing to put in the work. She had massive desire. And she had a company with like 20, 30 employees. So talking about excuses, she could have used them as an excuse, but instead she used them as a reason. That was her reason, not her excuse. And we came up with a plan. We helped her with the right mindset. We communicated consistently and constantly, because the more communication you have, the more money you'll make. And we came up with a plan, and she rolled out. She did the activity. And remember, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's okay. You're writing chapters in your book. Like if I came on here today and I go, hey, listen, everybody, I'm not sure what's wrong with all of you, but I got in. Everyone I talked to said yes. They all rank advanced. We all went straight to the top of the company. You would stop watching right now. But when you hear all of my stories, how I failed over and over and over again, people come to me and go, Darin, you don't understand. People are rejecting me. People are saying no. People are stealing my product. I've got a bunch of people doing nothing. And I would say, look, if my check is bigger than your check, the only difference is I have more people doing nothing than you do. So if you want some more people doing something, you need more people doing nothing. Well, Darin, you don't understand. This is back when we weren't doing virtual stuff. I went to a party, one person showed up. I'm like, yeah, I went 3.5 hours one way, and the person doing the party didn't show up. Then I had to drive all the way back home.
The good old days.
The good old days. So you're sharing stories. You're writing chapters in your book because that's relatable. People want real. They want you to be authentic. So have fun, lighten up in your sales, brighten up. I would help you with your attitude, help you with your mindset. We would lay out a 90-day strategy and then make every single minute count. And then we would teach you how to do that.
I like how you talked about simplifying, because probably we always have 5 or 6 key things we always say, like our main go-to. And for me, I always say successful people just do the basics better. And I think that's in all aspects of life. It's, I always use the analogy of golfing. You see the best golfers in the world, they start out putting 3 feet away. It's not the hard putt, it's the easy putts they start out with. And it's the same thing in your business, because that's the only thing that's going to create any sense of duplication, in the sense of them looking at you saying, yeah, this is good. But I remember for me, I'm already working on my next book. So I've got, the Recruit. Some of you have it. I've got Recruit Your Way to 6 Figures. I've got The Game of Networking is the first one, and then The Game of Conquering. So I'm working on the next game of insert, whatever that title is. And as I'm working on that right now, I actually did a whole section on, the whole focus is going to be on leadership, and on how my presentations eventually became so good they were bad. They were so good they were bad because no one else could do them. And I was so insecure about my presentations that I'm memorizing every single statistic and key point and story and this and this and this and covering everything, that they were so good they were bad, because I became a professional at recruiting people, signing people up, but everything was dependent on me. I had a sponsor dependent business, which means that I basically bought a full-time job around the clock every second. And that's why I'm always so big on simplicity as well, and creating massive, massive leverage for all of you. So last question, Darin, first off, where can they find you? Where's the best place for them to find you on social media or wherever? And then the next big question for you is, if you were to give a recommendation as far as someone coming into this incredible profession in business, and we've talked about casting a vision, we've talked about keeping it simple, and you were to give them a tip that's specific to increasing their recruiting, and you would just say, here's the tip, and here's the paraphrasing why this tip would be big. What would you give for a top just recruiting or sponsoring tip, hack, secret sauce, strategy, whatever we want to call it?
Okay. All right. So, and then remind me too, I want to give you the cowboy tip. All right. So it's a tip that completely changed my business. I named it the cowboy tip, and you'll laugh when you find out here in just a second. But the way they can find me is just going to my name, DarinKidd.com. And I put together a resource, and Rob, I had no social media following. I didn't know what the heck to do. But I was smart enough to go, I don't have to know what to do. I just have to find the right people like a Rob Sperry, hire them, shave years off my learning curve. So not only did I go hire one of the top 20 YouTubers in Forbes magazine, and, you know, even though I've neglected my YouTube channel the last several years, until recently we're getting ready to start putting new content, it grew to, you know, 60,000 plus. Social media, my Facebook took from nothing to, I think we're close to 170,000 on my business page. But if you go to darinkid.com/Facebook, there's a download, 25 tips to crush Facebook marketing. You don't have to pay all that money. You can just download that. So darinkid.com/Facebook. And if you need to get in touch with me, under training, there's a called Mastermind. It's just a form you can fill out and ask me any questions. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you the cowboy tip, which kind of works into the recruiting. But when you talked about being system dependent, not people dependent, you know, you can only work with 20, 30 people at a time. It's like spinning plates. And eventually the plates are going to start to crash and it's going to come back to you. I had this really sharp guy on a team of mine for a decade, and he was so sharp. He was intimidating. He was a legend in his own mind. If any of you know someone like that, right? And he wouldn't listen. It was all about him and his sales skills and his techniques. And, you know, he could recruit you. You would pay him just to leave you alone. And then he could go through you and get to your 5 people. But he would get these 30 plates spinning and it would crash back to him. Then he would go do it again and it would crash back to him. In a decade, Rob, he never went into duplication, ever. And he's one of the sharpest people you'll ever meet. So you do want it system dependent, not people dependent. And one of the lessons that I learned, I had this guy who was on my team. He was a little short cowboy, had a cowboy hat, was bigger than he was, and he kind of walked like a penguin. He was hilarious. And him and another friend of mine that was very smart, very intelligent, very detailed, they were in a water filtration system company many years ago together. My smart, detailed, intelligent friend, who, when people would ask him a question, did exactly what you said, learned everything about it, failed so bad that one night going home, he said it was snowing. He rolled down his window, threw all of his personal development out the window back when it was audio cassettes and CDs and all of that, said, I'm done. But when the cowboy friend, when they ask him, they go, look, his name was Ronnie Paul. They go, Ronnie Paul, how do these water filters work? Cowboy pitch. He said, all I know is the dirty water goes in the top, the clean water comes out the bottom, and all my smart friends are buying one. All I know is when people ask you a question, even if you can do a phenomenal presentation, they're looking at you go, can I do what you do? Do I want to do what you do? Do I have time to do what you do? Do I want to do to my friends, family, and neighbors what you just did to me? But if you go, hey, all I know is I got a video that does a whole lot better job than I do. If I send that to you, would you look at it? Right? All I know is, well, what about the science? All I know is this says a lot better than I do. Right? And I think it's Larry Thompson that's made $80 million. He does the exact same thing. And I remember Ray sharing a story. This is not too long ago. They were at somebody's home, and you know, it was a bunch of top network marketers, and somebody went over and he was drinking something, and he was like, well, man, what is this? And what is this? And I don't know if that will work. And he goes, look, all I know is I drink and I feel good, blah, 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 blah. And he walked away. And they're like, completely saw his mindset change. So that's a really good tip when it comes to duplication. Very simple, very basic, where you start teaching people it's not about you, it's about pointing to something else that does the presentation for you. You're the messenger, you're not the message. I call that the Hollywood pitch. You're the commercial to get them to look at the movie. All right, so that's that. Now, last thing I will say is that when it comes to recruiting, not only keep it very simple, but number one, exposure is everything. Your exposure is taking them from not knowing about your products and services in your company to knowing. That's it. Through third party, through a video, through a website, something they can do. Your exposures are your miles per hour. How fast do you want to get to where you want to be? You can drag it out. To me, if you drag it out and you do 1 a day or 2 a day, yeah, that you can do that, but it's painful. For me, I'm like, look, if we're launching a franchise, we had 2 frozen yogurt franchises that were $400,000 for one, $300,000 for another, and I could give you a whole training just on that. And we didn't own the franchises; they owned us. But Rob, if you and I just put $400,000 in a frozen yogurt franchise, and we're having a grand opening next weekend, we're not inviting one person every day. We're gonna do massive inviting in hopes that a few will show up. So when you're recruiting, you're taking them from not knowing to knowing. Your exposures are your miles per hour, and you don't care. Shouldn't care if they're interested or not. That's not your job. It's just to share with them what you're doing. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, you really have to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Do you believe in what you're doing? Do you believe your products and services can make a difference? Do you believe, let me say, right now, there are more people than ever laying in bed at night praying that God to send them something, whether it's for their health, whether it's for their finances, and you've got the solutions to their problems. And guess what? They're going to find it with or without any of you. So you want to be the one just to let them know, hey, look, it may or may not be for you, but if I share it with you, will you look at it? If nothing else, you may know someone that may be interested. So I won't go through approaches, but exposure is everything. And then make sure you're doing the follow-ups. Most people are not going to call you back no matter how excited they are. And then you work with the willing. It's easier to run with 1,000 people than drag one body, right? Go with the ones that are going your way. And last but not least, you talked about vision. You know, Rob, vision is seeing it before the masses see it. They say opportunities go through 3 phases: ridiculed, opposed, and then self-evident. But most people, 97% of people, only 3% get involved in the first 2 most profitable phases, which is ridiculed and actually violently opposed. Right now, 30 years ago, franchises were looked at as a scam. Network marketing is going through a transition right now. There are more people looking than ever before. I believe the momentum is going to explode like never before. And it's like a friend of mine, I met this guy in Northern Virginia, had 12 cell phone stores back in the late 80s. That was when you talked to 10 people about a cell phone, and 9 or 10 out of 10 laughed at you and said, that's stupid. They're thousands of dollars. The reception is horrible. Why would you ever do that? No one's going to have that in their car. No one's going to have it in their purse. AT&T paid him $14 million for 12 stores, losing money in the early 90s. Ridiculed and opposed. When people go, man, I wish everybody saw the value in their products and their service and their business. No, you don't. Don't want what you don't want. Right now, when 9 out of 10 people laugh at you and they don't see what you see, that's exactly where you want to be. Vision is seeing it before the masses see it. When they asked Helen Keller what's worse than being blind, she said having sight with no vision. When the late Dr. Miles Monroe said sight is a function of the eyes, vision is a function of the heart. So what is your vision for your business? And if you got somebody, tag them in this, share them with this, right? You know the value that Rob brings. You know, I mean, you're very blessed to have him continuing to add value to your life and to your business. And when he's doing things like this, it's at no charge, right? And sometimes that's a negative because they're like, oh, it's free. We don't treat it with the value that we would if we're having to pay someone a lot of money. But I say today is the day you make a decision. And this is not hype. This is not motivation. I remember my day of disgust when we told my daughter, hey, someday we'll go to Disney World. Well, guess what? Someday is exactly what my dad was saying when he passed away 10 years ago. Someday we'll go do this and someday we'll go do that. And someday never came. But I learned that someday leads to a town called nowhere. And some people's somedays are other people's everydays. So when my daughter walks in and we're bankrupt, I forgot to even share that part with you, bankrupt 21 years ago, car repossessed, on Medicaid, applying for food stamps, couldn't feed my kids, couldn't support my wife, went to the doctor, put on antidepressants because I didn't even want to get out of bed. I felt like I had no hope at all, right? I mean, thank God someone looked at me not as how I was, but how I could be with my potential. So when my daughter walked in the room and my wife and I have her piggy bank that we said someday we'll use it for Disney World, and we're going through the change just to go get some food, and she runs in, sees me doing that, runs out crying, and I'm sitting there going, how could I get so low that I'm taking my child's money for Disney World? That was the day I drew a line in the sand. We all know there's some friends and family, it just doesn't hurt bad enough. It's like the farmer that they're walking by and he's in a rocking chair and his dog is laying on a nail. And they go, mister, your dog is laying on a nail. And he's like, don't worry about it. When it hurts bad enough, he'll move. Some of our friends and family, it doesn't hurt bad enough yet. Or you throw them the life jacket, they won't grab it. They won't participate in their own rescue. They have to know you love them, you care about them, but you have to go with or without them. So when I walked out of that bedroom that day, after taking my daughter's money, I went and put on my wall, I will until. And a friend of mine said, Darin, you know success is buried right underneath frustration. And I'm like, well, thank God I've got to be close because I can't get any more frustrated. So for some of you, I would spend time after this immediately. I don't like giving just motivation, right? Yeah, I want to give you motivation and inspiration, but motivation comes from within, your motive for your actions. Spend some time getting crystal clear on what you want. When the billionaire Paul Meyer said, do a dream board, I'm like, a dream board? Am I in kindergarten? But no, wait a minute. It was his jet that I flew on, not my private jet. It was his place in the Cayman Islands, not mine. If he says do a dream board, do a dream board, because what thou seest, thou beest. And you have to see it here before you see it in reality. So I am cheering for you. I want you to go out and crush it. I don't care about your education, your lack of education. I live in a town still with 5 traffic lights. I've never moved, right? I'm a college dropout. I was bankrupt. I couldn't speak in front of 5 people. If you'd have told me that I would be doing the things that I've done, and I'm very humble and very blessed, and I know where my blessings come from, so I don't take pride in that, right? But if you'd have told me I'd have been doing the things I've done, I would have said, you've lost your mind. There's no way. So that should motivate you, knowing, look, if Darin Kidd can do it, I definitely can do it, and you can. It's just about doing the right things, being coachable, being willing to work, have a desire, and plugging into people like Rob Sperry. So, Rob, I appreciate you. I know that was a long answer.
Hey, good content is good content. I feel like I'm just going to drop the mic for you.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be invited on your platform. And for all of you, once again, Rob is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I'm not just saying that because I'm talking here. I was just on the phone with another major leader in network marketing, multiple 7-figure earner. And I'm like, man, do you know Rob? He's like, man, I'm great friends with Rob. I'm like, dude, that is one of the greatest guys I've ever met. And he had the exact same thing to say about you. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, fun to collaborate with legends like yourself. Like I said at the very beginning, great human being, great coach. You got the experience, and you're just spitting out fire. There's so many just good examples, good quotes, good analogies. The best leaders, the best speakers, the best trainers, the best communicators always give analogies, always give stories. So make sure that becomes at least one of the 1,000 takeaways from this incredible training. But we'll have to, I know we're going to be doing more. So I'm not even just going to say we'll have to. We're going to be doing many, many more trainings together. And as always, I appreciate all of you for taking the time to tune in, go take some of these concepts and principles and execute them into your business. Go make it happen.